So hello everyone. I don't know if you can listen or see me. Can you hear me and see me? Okay. Okay, I have your hands up, Paul, and so I will take that as a yes. I will just wait for 1 minute or 2 minutes for the people that is moving from the main stage to the sessions, so we have a full crowd, and then we will start with this interesting Agritech session. Just maybe 1 minute until the people moves from one session to the other. I can see that we have 11 people already. So let's wait until a few minutes. Just, I will take advantage of this time just to let you know that we will be running these Agritech sessions with 5 representatives of British companies, really interesting British companies that are operating in the Latin American market. The idea today is for me to give you a short presentation of between 5 and 10 minutes, and then give the floor to the representatives today, because they are the important ones today, to give their experience and to show their experience in Latin America. what are the needs and the demands that they are finding, and how they are providing solutions for those demands. So I can see that the people is growing, all the people attending is growing. So maybe I will start. So, well, again, thank you all for joining. It's great that the British Chamber of Commerce have us today here. I hope this to be a really inspirational session for other companies in the UK, other British companies in the agritech sector, but also for stakeholders in Latin America. The idea is to show how Latin American demand in agriculture and also British solutions, British innovations could match and could be working together. This is not about lecturing. This is not about the UK lecturing agriculture in Latin America, because I think, and from my experience in my role, I've seen a lot of experience and taking knowledge of what Latin America is doing, and the companies in the UK are also learning of how the Latin America and the different markets in Latin America, they are not all the same, are producing food, producing commodities, and maybe in a different way than the UK. So I will start. My name is, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Federico Perejotque. I'm based in Buenos Aires. I work for the Department of International Trade. And I'm coordinating the agritech sector across Latin America, so helping or supporting the British companies to land or expand their business in Latin America. So again, I will try to give a bit of a taste of maybe trying to answer two main questions today about why Latin America and why the UK, and why to match both ends in terms of agriculture and agritech. Maybe this is, you may have heard this many times, but maybe the easiest question to ask is, to answer, sorry, is why Latin America, right? And I think, and I will say it again, once again, that Latin America is really a big player in the current world food production and in the export of agri-food. It has a lot of surplus. But I think even more important is that Latin America is a key player in the future of food supply in the world. And there is and you may have heard already this one, but there's a statement by the Food and Agriculture Organization in the United Nations that states that we need to meet a demand of more than 9 billion people in 30 years' time. So we need to increase production by 60% in a very short time. So in that sense, Latin America is really a key player. Latin America has more than 600 million population across 34 countries. It generates 1/3 of the world's water. It has 1/4 of world's arable land, with the possibility of incorporating even more land. And I'm not talking about illegal deforestation. I'm talking about true land. But it just contributes to around 14 or 16% of world food export. So there's a gap over there between the land availability, the resources on water, and what Latin America is providing in terms of food exports. So that gap could be shortened, or it could be overcome by technologies, by more efficiency, by more sustainability. And these are the two main drivers that we find in Agritech, right? Is sustainability and efficiency. These are the two main drivers that in every fair or every show that you are going to find around agriculture and Agritech, they are going to have these two topics or leitmotifs: is efficiency and sustainability. So agriculture, again, is really important. It's an important sector for the economy across much of the Latin American countries. It accounts for an average of 5% of GDP, but that number is even higher, around 20 or 25%, if we consider agribusiness as a broader concept regarding the whole supply chain. And the sector in the region have been growing by an average of 3% per year over the past 2 decades. And if you compare that with the OECD countries, this pace of growth is considerably faster. OECD countries are growing at a 1.2% annually. So what are you going to find in Latin America? It's not the same. It's not homogeneous. So you're going to find a lot of heterogeneity, diversity, almost from every angle. If you consider, I don't know, for example, different agroecological zones, topography, different farm size and structures, and they are all operating at different levels of technology and sophistication. So it's really different if you're a UK company, if you decide to go to Brazil or Argentina, for example, or Uruguay, or if you decide to go to, I don't know, Colombia, Ecuador, Central America, or the Caribbean countries. The approach is really different. So basically, you are going to find or I like to simplify this by saying that you are going to find or you're going to find a coexistence between two sectors, right? One of those is a very capital and technology intensive sector, which is export oriented and really well integrated into global agri-food markets. And I mean this with the large farms in the southern cone, mainly Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, or Paraguay, or even Chile. And then you will find another more broad socio-productive sector, which is based in subsistence farming. And this is really important because there are around 14 or 15 million smallholder farmers that are responsible for more than 50% of Latin American food production. So it's not a sector that it's definitely a sector that worth to pay attention. But again, the approach that you will have with those two sectors is really, really different. And today we're going to see companies that are maybe focusing on one of those sectors, and that's important. And that shows how the UK could, how the British companies could be attending or meeting the demand in different sectors across the supply chain. So again, Latin America, and I will move now later on to why the UK, but there's really an impressive list of commodities for which the region and Latin America is the leading supplier to the world market. And I'm not just talking about cereals or oilseeds as soybeans, corn, but also poultry, beef, coffee, sugar, bananas. I don't know. I could continue with pork, animal feed, fruits, vegetables, oranges, lemons, honey, cacao, and again, the list is impressive. So every different solution in the UK could match with a production in Latin America, and this is the interesting thing. So Latin America is exporting around $200 billion export every year, and that's huge, largely on the back of Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, for example, Uruguay as well. But there are opportunities in every different market. So now, why the UK? And this is the other part of the question, right? It's not just why Latin America, but also why the UK. And the question over here is that the UK and since 2013, the government decided to launch a really well structured strategy around Agritech. And for the first time, the government, the science, and the industry gather all together in this strategy to identify and develop opportunities and explore the strength of this sector. So the main objective was to and is to become a world leader in Agritech and to adopt technologies, new technologies and existing ones to increase productivity, to produce more sustainably, and to contribute to food security. And the key elements around this are really a world-class science. There are several research institutes and universities developing and investigating around agriculture and agritech. There is a well-established progressive food and farming supply chain. So you will find the industry itself looking for innovations in agriculture and the food production. And you will also find a very dynamic business environment. So this conducts to more and more innovation, to the protection of intellectual property and tax benefits for companies establishing in the UK, even if they are not British. So a huge opportunity also for investment. In this sense, in the UK, and I don't want to waste more time because I think the stars today are the companies that are going to show us the different innovation and the opportunities in Latin America. But the UK has 4 different innovation centers funded by the government. And these innovation centers are really important in terms of building a network of the technology side and the agricultural side. They provide satellite farms for the different innovative companies to test or to run trials across not just the UK, but also overseas. So you have 4 different innovation centers. One is focused on livestock. The other one is focused on crop health and protections. And then you have 2 cross innovation centers around big data management and around precision agriculture. So many of the companies today are members of one of those innovation centers. And it's a really good hub of innovation that helps them to make these solutions and innovations commercially viable, right? So finally, I will just let you know that DIT, the Department of International Trade in Latin America, we are more than 150 staff helping UK companies to land and to succeed in Latin America. And we have a very vertical and horizontal approach. We have people in every post, in every country, and we have campaigns around sectors. One of those is Agritech. I like to say that is the new boy in the neighborhood. And we're working really hard since 2020 to coordinate all this campaign and help the different companies in the UK to land in Latin America. So I will pause there and I will give now the floor to the 5 different companies that are accompanying us today. They are in different stages of the supply chains, on the connectivity side, for example, or on the digitalization of agriculture with different applications that helps farmers to make more efficient decisions, for example, or to collect data with drones, or to apply fertilizers or different solutions to the crops, and also with a really innovative solution around vertical control environment agriculture, for example. And also maybe the last part of all that supply chain is certifying how sustainable you are producing, right? Because this is an important part of when you decide to export to the premium markets. So you need blockchain solutions and a way to certify and to prove that what you're producing is sustainable. So we will start with Betty Bornadel today at Farmer Charlie. I will let Betty to explain more about the company, but Farmer Charlie brings connectivity at really low cost to smallholder farmers. And thanks to this connectivity, sensors could provide field and water information, helping farmers to make more efficient decisions. But I will let Betty to give you more insightful information about the company and how you're operating in Latin America. The floor is yours, Betty.
Thank you very much, Federico, and thank you for you, as well as the Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to this talk. I'm going to share a few slides that's going to explain a bit more in details what we're doing. Oh, that starts well. I can't see my window. So let's see if I can. Oh, here it is now. So the can you see the screen?
Yes.
So yeah. So Farmer Charlie is a system that was developed to help farmers managing their field at a competitive cost. The idea is to address, it's a worldwide figure, but I think you touched upon the needs of Latin America. At farming, in our case, we were stricken by the fact that a lot of the farming is produced by small family farming. It's sustainable farming in a way that it's to sustain their family rather than anything else, so for survival. And that at the same time, 2.7 billion people are still not connected to the internet as now. It's an ITU figure that comes on a regular basis, and therefore there is that need for bringing the connectivity. In addition to that, the FAO published in January a figure that 15% of the food produced is wasted in the food chain. So by looking at that, we believe that if we are developing a system that is more knowledgeable where the information is captured, we would be able to actually get more efficient farming and therefore not necessarily creating opportunities, growth for the mid-sized to smaller size farming. So our mission at Farmer Charlie is to really look at that 570 million smallholder farmers around the world and look and we can support them. And the idea is that we bring information that is actually quite comprehensive. So it's information that is helping them with their farming practices, that is helping them accessing markets, that is helping them collaborate with others. So find opportunities that will then help generate growth. And that concept is that the information can be contextual from a country. You mentioned the opportunity of export, and at the same time, the opportunity of having local information that is complemented. Now, that is very important that is done at a competitive cost, because at the end of the day, farming, especially for smallholder and medium-sized farms, the margin are very small. Most of the time, the farmers maybe have a second job in some countries, or maybe find it difficult to make ends meet. So we are really working to a competitive code that is affordable by the farmers and help them develop that sustainable farmer, which increases the yield eventually by better practices, but also works on the efficiency, such as post-harvest losses, for instance. So our market verticals are basically the farming community in emerging countries. So it's global around the world. And we've been talking, for instance, to farming community of women in Colombia as they were farming coffee, not as a commodity, but more as a more narrow niche market product. and then trying to address the issues that they were facing. We've been looking also at growing cassava also in Colombia, because when you compare the growth of cassava in Colombia towards even what Brazil is doing next door, or what further away Thailand is doing, the actual yield rate and the opportunity for cassava is actually pretty, as a margin for growth, if you want, could be done in a more efficient way. The second market that we're looking at is plantations in emerging countries, and also the small farms in developed economies, because at the end of the day, the problem for all these kind of farming communities is exactly the same, is that by not accessing information, they waste a lot of time, opportunities, and efficiency in the way they're farming. So on the right side, you see an example of a prototype sensor that we've developed to actually equip farms in Sicily. This is to grow organic vegetables. We've used them also on citrus fruits. And basically, the idea is that through that, we can more efficiently run their irrigation system. The farmers can be informed, run the irrigation system remotely. Now, a lot of the irrigation systems are automated in medium-sized farms. However, they have an issue because that irrigation system is not done according to the local weather. So by providing that kind of censorship in a clever way, you can do it more efficiently. But again, it needs to be cost effective for the farmers and also easy for them to use. So at the bottom of these slides, you have what we bring. And I would say it's a bit of an a la carte system, where if you don't have solar energy, we bring the solar energy, which is used then for the electronic equipments that are delivered for the connectivity. However, they can be also providing solar energy for the communities if it's missing. Then you have the broadband internet that is provided through satellite, but again, that is accessible not only for the farming activities, but if there were other services that the farmers were requiring, they could be added to that. Then you have the sensors in the field, you have the weather station that complements the information that is provided globally. And again, it's not only information that is about farming practices, sustainable farming practices, but it goes beyond that. Market opportunities, export, understanding how logistics is done, transport, all these aspects that maybe are very efficient. Is it relevant for a farming community to have a set of fridges, for instance, that would help them time their sales in a better, more efficient way? So with that, we build that data analytic, and we have an app store, which actually is an open app store, meaning that we welcome any other apps that are relevant to the farming communities, because what we think is that by bringing all this information together, we create that very important growth. So that is, in a nutshell, the model that we are working on. We've been working on, in particular, in Africa, more specifically in Nigeria. I know that there is a colleague of yours speaking also in Lagos at the moment. So we've been working in Nigeria, in Ivory Coast. As I said, in Latin America, we've been in discussions. We haven't had any tests of the solution, but we're about to commercialize, and we are actually looking for partners and opportunities to grow and develop a solution in Latin America, because as Federico was saying, I think it's an amazing continent. It's a fabulous land for opportunity and collaboration, because that's what is critical for us, is that we want to be useful to people, and we want to make sure that it's a win-win situation where everybody is getting some benefits. So that finishes my presentation, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Betty. That was really, really insightful, and you give me the way to travel to Nigeria to Paul to PCI technology. This was not rehearsed, but it works. It worked very well. So, Paul, it's a pleasure to have you here. We now know that you are based in
Looks like
Nigeria.
we're just two of us on the platform at the moment.
Over to you, Paul. Thank you. Can you hear us, Paul? Paul, can you hear us over there? I feel that there are maybe some connectivity problems. Paul, can you hear us? Okay, maybe let's move to the next speaker until we sort out the problems over there with connectivity around Paul. Paul, I can see you unmute yourself.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Go ahead, please, Paul.
Federico.
Yes, Paul, please go ahead.
I don't know. I'm supposed to be Betty. I'm supposed to follow you, but I don't know if I'm supposed to speak now or what. I have no idea. Maybe I should just go for it.
Yep.
Do you think? Okay. All right. So, okay. Yeah. So I'd like to say thank you to the DIT and the Chamber of Commerce for inviting us along to speak here today as well. I'm here representing Farm Smarter, which is an app that we've developed for smallholder farmers across the globe to actually help them with their productivity and their sustainability. And one of the things that prompted us to do this is that we realized that most farmers, smallholder farmers, don't have the sort of budgets for a lot of big equipment that are available to farmers in developed countries, especially access to timely information. And so we sort of developed this project with Innovate UK funding backing to actually bring this technology to the marketplace. So I would at this point try and share my screen and see if it works, because I don't really know, but I shall try. There we go. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just going to play this video that we've done, which just explains what Farm Smarter is all about and where we're at. So basically, Farm Smarter, what we realized that the farmers couldn't actually afford the major tools for their farms. But one thing that all of us and all the farmers have access to, the technology they've got access to, is their mobile phone, and it sits in their pockets. And so the farmers to actually map and gives them an accurate sort of acreage of their farm, and from that precise location data, we're able to give them information about crop yields, expected yields, weather forecasts, lots of plant information, data, and things that basically help them. And what you see here is the actual app in action, with somebody sort of just walk in their field, and as they walk the boundary, the app actually just tracks it, and that information, and from that, it in the back end, the AI thing kicks in, and it basically calculates the acreage and the hectarage of the farm, and then allows them to basically go in there and they can adjust it and make it accurate around their boundary. And once that's done, it sort of just stores it. And they also have an option, if they can't walk it, they can actually draw it. And this is a farm in the north of Nigeria where the farmers actually just drawn their map. And then once we've got that, we now can tell them information about, because part of what we try and do is help them with their sustainability in terms of their soil health, and choices that they make for sustainable farming. So based on different algorithms and choices that they make, we will give them things like, planting date, when expected time for them to harvest or go out and treat, or sort of, based on the weather as well, because we do give them weather forecast and we monitor the weather. So we can say to them, okay, you need to go and check field A for, to see whether, we think it needs to be watered, or we think you need to check it for weeds or whatever. So we're able to give them a lot of information in the background. But what's most important about this is we are also very aware that this app should be accessible to people who are both have a low literacy. So a lot of it, we've worked on having a lot of graphics, a lot of sort of illustrations to make things easier for them to understand. And so, they get information on the crops, they get information on the planting season, when they should, and what they should plant, and what's a good intercropping, how to treat their farm. And most importantly, we also have an AI disease recognition, which gives them, which they take a picture of a disease of the plant, and it gives them actually a diagnosis in less than a second. And to date, on the 4 crops and 6 diseases we've trained it on so far, it's returning an accuracy of about 97%. So yeah, so we're really excited, and the farmers that are testing it out in the field in Nigeria are all very excited as well. So and one of the things which has already been mentioned before me is that farmers need access to markets. They need to be able to sort of sell their goods. So what we've created an online shop for them to actually be able to say, look, I've got X, Y, Z to sell. So we've made it so easy for them to create and take pictures and post what they need to sell. And that connects them to a wider communities, sort of an online, an online cooperative, so to speak, a digital cooperative where they can sort of just talk to each other farmers and, share advice. And also the commercial users can actually go in there and buy the crops or buy what they need from the farmers, or place an order with them. So what you see here is actually the disease ID thing working real time from when the picture's taken. And then once it detects it, it gives them actual solutions and treatments for that disease. And what we try to do is make sure we try to give them sustainable solutions, which wherever possible are not chemical based. But if there's no other solution, then we try and make sure that we give them the most environmentally friendly sort of chemical solutions that are out there. And then they have, like I said earlier, they have the chat forums, they're able to communicate with other farmers, and also the banks. They can connect to banks for finance, access to, because of the fact that we de-risk the actual loans and insurance, because the banks and the insurance companies are able, they know exactly where the farmers are, they know exactly what the yield potential is. They're able to make sort of informed assessments. And also, because the farmers are all connected digitally, they also can form like a sort of the finance companies can aggregate and go and visit, a group of farmers at once, cutting down on the carbon emissions and and whatever. So and what you can see, what they can do on the app, they can also do on the web portal. So we've tried to make it as streamlined as possible and easy to use for both the farmers and the commercial users alike.
Paul.
So
Paul.
thereby opening up new frontiers for the farmers and the commercial users. And
Paul, we need
the excitement and the interest that's been garnered so far continues to. So, and we've been working in Paraguay, and we've found that very interesting. And like, what's been interesting for us is that because we developed this app in Nigeria, but we now sort of are working in Paraguay to also extend the reach of the app. This is where I run out of time, so I will stop here. Thank you for listening, and thank you once again for having me.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for that. And it was, again, a really insightful presentation, and really glad to know about the engagement of the company in the Paraguayan market. So we're going to move now to a company that, when I mentioned at the introduction, I said that maybe this was the final stage of the supply chain somehow, right? In terms of certifying or demonstrating, proving that what you are producing is sustainable, or at least it meets regulations in the countries, the importing countries. So we're going to move to Robin Sampson, which is the managing director of Trading Space. They work in the blockchain and traceability of production, and turns satellites insight into transactionable insight. So I love this phrase that it says it's like a sustainability passport, right? For the companies. So Robin, not more from me, and I give you the floor to present the company.
Thank you very much, Federico, and it's nice to be here with you all. I'm very grateful for the invite to present some of our ideas to you. Let me show you some slides which I have that I think will do a better job of showing you what we mean by some of these things that Federico alluded to. So I'll try and share. Oh, hello, that's not right. I'll try and share this slide deck, so hopefully you can see the slides that I have now. And let me just speak a little bit more about Trading Space and what we do. I'm going to start by saying we have grown to cover quite a large part of the globe. We have some interests in Latin America, where we are supporting some agricultural producers and supply chain operators in Brazil and Chile, Colombia, actually Peru as well, Guatemala as well, and also some places around the coffee belt. So that's one of the things that you'll see in common here, is all of these countries in the kind of equatorial region that we're supporting are large coffee producers, and that's because coffee is one of the main crops that we develop services for. Federico mentioned the transactionable insights that we provide. Let me just expand on what exactly we mean by that phrase. This is something that we get when we integrate data that we collect from a satellite-based system, that analysis data on crop acreage or yield area, and then we integrate that data into a distributed ledger software framework. And this is what we do because it lets us use the data in new ways. We can turn analysis into proof of various different things, and that's what we're all about, is producing that kind of insight that lets people trade data between themselves. Now, we actually let me just, I don't know if any of you guys noticed, there's actually a sack of coffee behind me, which came from Huila in Colombia. We think we produced the first ever satellite brokered commodity trade, where we used a satellite image and we used that to source some coffee to a specification of a coffee roasting business in Scotland, where we're based. And then to track and import that coffee all the way from Colombia to the UK and record all of those details about the transaction and the logistics onto a distributed ledger, so that that could be audited by anyone who wanted to know more about that coffee shipment. So that was quite interesting. It got quite a lot of attention from the coffee community. But actually what we realized was perhaps the most important use for this technology today is to prove that production has been completed sustainably. And especially in light of emerging new regulations in the UK and the European Union around proving that the commodities that are being imported into the bloc are sustainable. And this is where we think our service has the most promise for being able to prove compliance to these regulations for importers. Another quite interesting link to Latin America and the UK as well is, obviously there's a huge amount of coffee and cacao production in Latin America, and a huge amount of consumption in the UK. So there's this kind of natural trade relationship because of these facts. I just wanted to show you one of our main products here. This is what we spent the last few years developing with some coffee producers, where we have details on thousands. In fact, we're up to 250,000 coffee farms globally now. We can assess the likelihood that produce from those farms will meet regulatory requirements to import into the UK and the EU. And then we can produce data sets on this and also produce a barcode that lets someone scan the produce from that farm and determine that it's compliant to regulations, or at least it's likely to be. We have to include a ground verification step here as well. So I just wanted to show you this quickly. I hope the GIF isn't making you feel dizzy, because it runs through quite fast. Wanted to also mention that, again, linking to Latin America, we have worked recently to bring a new project through the European Space Agency called Orbital Commodity Asset Securitization. This is a big piece of work that we're doing at the moment, and the pilot user here is the Colombian National Coffee Growers Federation, FEDICAFE. It's actually the biggest coffee farmers cooperative in the world, and we're delighted that they're now evaluating some of our products to see if they can prove and help coffee producers in Colombia earn a higher price for their coffee by proving that they are compliant to import regulations in Europe. So that's one piece of work that we're doing at the moment. Despite Brexit and everything about Brexit, I mean, even despite that, we've been invited to participate in a stakeholder group from the European Coffee Federation and the British Coffee Federation and the European Union's Office for the Space Programme. So this is the guys that are likely to have to find the solutions to this regulatory issue. So we're now providing some input into this discussion to support coffee sustainability and traceability so that those emerging regulations can be met. One of our biggest clients actually is a major commercial coffee trading organization called Sucafina. They have a huge presence in Colombia and throughout other countries in Latin America, but mainly Colombia. And they are a big supporter of the work we've done and a big commercial sponsor of that work. So I just wanted to drop that in there. We've actually been sharing an office with Sucofina in Bogota, and we're planning to expand our operations in Colombia as well, and we're looking to recruit some new staff in the city quite soon. We've also started working with other commodity verticals, not just coffee. Grupo Nutresa and Compañía Nacional de Chocolates are one of our latest customers, and in fact we'll be traveling to some cacao farms in Antioquia next month. So we just booked travel, so we'll be back there. And similarly, we are also interested in supporting traceability applications for cacao production as well as coffee. So these are just some of the things that we have ongoing now. I'm just going to wrap up now. If any of you guys are interested, please do reach out and contact us if you'd like to have a closer look at the platform that I showed you, or discuss some of the angles for the technology. We have lots of other things in development and have some special interest in trying to kind of turn that carbon data that we can get from farms into another kind of transactionable insight. So is there work that we can do in recording carbon sequestration from farms and recording that on a blockchain? This is something we're investigating right now. It's a big product development area for us. And I think the important key take-home message is, although that thing that I showed you looked like a kind of typical geospatial interface, sitting behind that is a huge smart contract blockchain engine that means we can use all of the data in completely different and new ways. So with that, I'll sign off for now, but please do reach out if you'd like to speak to us further. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Robin. That was, again, really, really nice. And I was able to listen some Spanish over there. So that's a good tip for the companies to get involved in Latin America, to invest in Spanish as the main language, or Portuguese as well in Brazil. Well, we're going to move now to a different kind of company, a different sort of company with different solutions, not in the application side or in the satellite imaging side, but on the controlled environment agriculture, which is a different concept in terms of what we've seen until now with the other three companies. It's really interesting because it's also on the sustainable side, as these give benefits in terms of reducing environment impact or reducing the carbon footprint, improving the food freshness. So, well, Neil Arden is the marketing manager. I will give you the floor to let us know a bit more about Vertically Urban. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Federico. Welcome to Vertically Urban, coming to you from sunny Yorkshire. Well, not so sunny Yorkshire right now. I think it's getting quite dark outside. But so Vertically Urban, we are a UK-based manufacturer of horticultural LED lighting solutions and control systems. We started out with in the vertical farm sector, and in June this year we launched a set of solutions for glass houses. So I've got a little presentation that I'll start up in just a second, and then I'm sure at some point fairly quickly you'll get fed up with my my dulcet tones. So I've got a little video for us to watch. And then I'll just finish up with a few bits about our product specifically. So let me just get the presentation up and running. So hopefully that is us sort of live now. So just for those of you that don't know too much about the whole sort of vertical farming sector, and controlled environment agriculture, as a whole, it's all sort of centered around kind of helping to fix the issue that we've got of this looming food supply crisis. So that's all driven by, or mostly by, the fact that the global population is due to hit around 9 billion by 2050, which leads us to be needing to produce up to 70% more food in the UK, not in the UK, globally to satisfactorily feed that extra population going forward. Two of the sort of big issues that we face is the sort of the age-old climate change, where we're seeing sort of traditional farmland being lost at an alarming rate, and that's only going to get worse as the effects of climate change and extreme weather scenarios kind of come to the fore. Here in the UK this year we've had the hottest and driest summer on record. So it's it is a very real problem that we need to solve in that respect. And the second one is environmental pollution. Again, a lot of farmland is sort of been a big issue in the UK of late, with some decisions taken sort of by the governments that have relaxed legislation that allows sort of effluent to be pumped into watercourses, etc., which all has a knock-on effect for sort of ecosystems and again traditional farmland. So it's not great in that respect. Vertical farming, can it be part of the rescue package? Certainly. I think moving forward, we're going to see a scenario where vertical farms, and we're already starting to see sort of around the globe, and I know particularly here in the UK, we're starting to see vertical farms become more and more part of the food supply chain. Over here, we've got a lot of the sort of supermarket chains starting to think about, or indeed build, vertical farms right next to their distribution centres, so that a lot of the issues that have been caused by the global energy crisis, by Brexit, that age-old thing where we like to shoot ourselves in the foot as a country, starting to kind of plug some of those gaps that we've got, where we've traditionally relied on importing a lot of produce. Doesn't mean that we've stopped importing. It just means that here and across the globe we can be a little bit more self-sufficient and start to reduce food miles as well. So there are some benefits to vertical farming. Biggest one is increased water efficiency. So can use up to 95% less water than traditional agriculture. So that makes it particularly suited to go into either particularly arid areas or indeed into urban areas where water would be a precious resource sort of there too. Reduce pesticide and herbicide use because it's a completely controlled environment, and that goes for glass houses as well. You can control through your sort of HVAC systems and how biosecure you make your solution. You can reduce the pesticide and herbicide use. A lot of plants, I know, particularly in the hop growing industry, they're starting to look towards vertical farms to grow some of the plants that are more susceptible to powdery mildew and things like that, because they can filter the air to stop that mold getting to the plant. So it's a win in that respect. Shorter harvest cycle, so there's potential there to because you're not at the whims of the weather. You can repeatedly harvest, or sort of as soon as you reach the desired growth, you can plant another harvest. So in terms of things that we want to have all the time, for instance, salad vegetables, it makes perfect sense for that to go into that sort of growing system. Mentioned before, minimize food miles is a big thing. Beauty of vertical farms, especially over something like a glass house, is that you can put one literally wherever it needs to be. There's quite a few companies, definitely here in the UK, and we've worked with some, one in Portugal and a couple sort of dotted around the world, where vertical farms are set up in ready to go kind of shipping containers. So literally be dropped into place, hooked up to power, hooked up to water, and they can be ready to be planted within a couple of days. So we're starting to see those go into well, institutions and communities. There's a situation in the UK where the prison service have started to kind of drop some into their prisons to help the prisoners kind of get used to farming in them, because it's kind of upskilling for a very modern skill. So they are a brilliant solution in that sort of scenario, and also helps to reconnect communities to where their food came from, which I think as a global population we've got very detached from where our food comes from. It's very. I used to teach before I did this. I used to teach secondary science, and there's so many of the kids that I taught, which was kind of an inner city school, that had no idea what sort of fruits and vegetables look like growing in the natural environment, as it were. So they can be used for education and get people back used to kind of thinking about food as plants and animals and things like that, just to re-engage. Decreased soil erosion, again in hydroponic setups, so like most vertical farms, that would be not grown in any kind of soil media. It would be either in something like rock wool, or in aeroponic setups, just with the roots dangling in a mist of nutrient-rich water. So once we set up the farm, we've minimised the disruption there, and increased yield per unit area. In a traditional farm, you've got one layer of crop. In a vertical farm, you can, on the same footprint, you can grow multiple layers. So you can grow a lot more crop for the area of land that you have. And reduction in agricultural land use. So, we're seeing, as we lose traditional agricultural land, we're having to create more to replace it. So we have to, with sort of vertical farms and glass houses, we have to use less land to replace those, because of that higher crop turnover and that increased yield per unit area. So it's a pretty good industry to be involved with. This is just one of the predictions. We're sort of thinking around about last year was a just over a $4 billion industry, but it's predicted to grow very, very rapidly by 2030 to hit a global industry of over $30 billion. I mean, you see lots of different predictions there, but that definitely feels like we're on that kind of trajectory. So, it's something that the technology's been around for a long time, but we're seeing sort of very rapid growth, and that's something that works well for everyone. There's a lot of very clever people kind of looking at this technology, which can only benefit us as a global human population. Just a little bit about the company as a whole before I get onto our company video. So our background as a company is in LEDs. We've kind of dealt in LED technology since it was sort of commercially viable, really. But that was mostly focused on architectural lighting. So when you see a lot of the buildings in sort of Dubai and those sorts of countries that are all kind of lit up and doing all the fancy dancing around and all that sort of stuff, that's our sort of company's background. So we opened our own factory back in 2012, did very well with that, took on some of the big sort of global consumer electronics retailers to do some of their stores. Not naming any names, but if I said it was fruit based, I'm sure you can work out what company we're talking about there. And then in 2019, we sort of got asked by a customer, can we use our knowledge of LEDs to start looking at the horticultural market? And we very rapidly came to the conclusion that was something that we could do. So we took on board a lovely plant science team. So we've got Phoebe Sutton, our plant scientist, who does a lot of our in-house trials and research on sort of how plants interact with light, to make sure that we're producing the right spectrums to get the best growth possible.
Sorry. Yeah, no, sorry, Neil. If we could wrap up because we are a bit overrunning of time. So
okay.
for the last presentation. So sorry, maybe we could display the video at the end with of the Q&A. But
yeah, not a problem at all. Let me just jump through a couple of slides. Sorry. Okay, so just a very quick overview. I will wrap up very quickly, Federico. I do apologise. So the product that we is our bread and butter for the vertical farming market is the Horti blade here. So it is the thinnest, to our knowledge, the thinnest one on the market. It's only 8mm thick, which means that for every 10 layers you get into the vertical farm, you can squeeze an extra one. So that's even better for sort of crop yield. And it's also incredibly efficient. Fully sealed, so once you get it, you can sort of hose it down, do whatever you need to with it, leave it in place, and it's completely maintenance free. Fully sealed in food safe resin, so you really don't need to go back to it once it's installed. And then for our glasshouse customers, we've developed the Odyssey family, and these are especially sort of relevant in terms of the global sort of energy crisis. I assume that's kind of reached sort of Latin America just as much as it has, well, probably not to quite the same extent, but like it has over here. So we're seeing a lot of the traditional lighting wanting to move towards the sort of more efficient LED lights. And these have been designed as a straight replacement. So where you'd have 1,000 watt traditional fixture, you'll have a 600 watt fixture of the Odyssey range. But because it's LED, you're using more of that wattage to get photons onto your plant. So you're actually increasing growth. So yeah, very, very briefly as well, we're developing control systems that are based around AI. So that will be able to see from the moment of germination in a vertical farm whether the crop will reach the desired growth rate. So that reduces resource use overall. So yeah, very sorry for that sort of curtailed thing. Very sorry for running over, Federico. But if anybody does want to check us out, please do go and have a look at our exhibition booth. Check out the website there, or if you want a more in-depth chat, please do either give us a call or email hello@verticalurban.com, and we'll try and get back to you. Indeed, if there's any questions, send them through to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil. I'm sorry for being the bad cop, but we are a bit overrunning of time, so we need to move to the last but not least presentation of Verdinetic. We have Carlos Ugarte, colleague, which is the co-founder of Verdinetic, which is in the drone solution side of the world. So and they are doing really good job at for example, Venezuela and Bolivia. So, colleague, over to you for the presentation. And sorry for the time, but if we could strict to between 5-7 minutes, I will appreciate it. Thank you.
That's the idea, Federico. Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this panel. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to. Can you hear me all right? Am I coming out okay? Let me check.
Yeah, we can hear it well, colleague.
Perfect. Okay, let me share a presentation here. Okay. Let's see. Give me just 1 second. Yes, having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Well, but in the meantime, let me start talking about ourselves. We are Verdinetic. We are focusing on the transition of small and medium scale agricultural producers and foresters to digitalization through the adoption of innovative drone technologies. It's great to hear that many of the solutions that have been discussed here today also target small and medium size producers. Can you see this, Federico? Can you see my presentation?
Not a presentation. We can see the webpage of the event, actually.
Okay, so let me see. Let me try this again. Touch screen should be here. Share. Okay. Let's see. How about now?
Okay. Yep, we can see it now.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, seems like it's not coming up then. And how about now?
Yep, it's correct.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. So basically, we deliver a commercially viable solutions towards effective decision making by the understanding that we have of precision agriculture technology. And precision agricultural technology is taken all over the agriculture, and a revolution is underway. Drones for crop spraying are part of this solution. The use of drones to target pests and diseases, and for the application of fertilizers, minimizes crop damage by at least 7%. Saves at about 80% of the amount of fresh water that is normally used for this kind of treatments. Reduces the amount of pesticides released to the environment by almost 40%. And then, of course, you're not using fossil fuels, because most of these devices are powered by by batteries. So you lower production costs and decrease harm to the environment. However, precision agriculture solutions are seldom at reach of small and medium-sized producers. But this is what's great about drones, that drones do bring this kind of solutions to this level. And drones can also be used by large producers, but we do see that it makes a lot more, much more of a difference with the small and medium size producers. But drones, the use of drones can be a bit challenging, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But right now, what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the state of the industry. Two companies basically dominate the agricultural drone world, DJI and XAG. In China, for instance, they dominate 80% of the agricultural drone market. And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, in 2021, about 150,000 drones from DJI were already in the market, about 80,000 from XAG, and just only that year, 50,000 of those drones reach operators. So we're in a situation now where this industry is growing exponentially, and it's impressive what we have seen in the evolution of technology over the last couple of years. In front of me is what you see on the screen now is a 10-liter drone from TTA, which is what we started using a couple of years ago, until this year, where we have seen the use of 30-liter drones like the T30 from DJI. That has been the flagship agricultural drone for the season. In our case, we've been using... I guess that was a little bit noisy. We've been using 30-liter drones from Topex Gun, another Chinese manufacturer. And now we're looking forward at in the upcoming season for the 40-liter drones, in particular to the P100 from XAG. So this is the pace of evolution that we can see in drones sprayers. I guess one of the big advantages that we saw this year was the use of obstacle detection. So that's to give you an idea of how obstacle detection has significantly improved. The technology has significantly improved in this field. It still faces its challenges, but it definitely makes the use of drones a lot easier at this stage. One of the things that we saw this year was how these big drones started making a difference, how we were able to cover additional area with a single flight. We were able to reach the 2 hectares per flight, maybe even more. But I guess one of the things that's important to understand is that the use of these big drones, the 30 liters and now the 40 liters, is not for everyone. It's not for every occasion. We still believe there is space for drones for the smaller drones. In this case, what we're seeing is a 30-liter drone doing desiccation in sunflower, but in small fields and in fields with very obstacles like the ones that we just showed you. The use of small drones, 16-liter, 20-liter drones, is still very, very reliable. That's, by the way, one of the things that we like about the P100 from XAG, that you can use it either as a 40-liter drone, or actually you can use it as a 20-liter drone. Another one of the examples that we want to bring forward here is how important it is, the quality of applications. In the image that I'm showing you right now, you can see on the right-hand side an application that was done using the wrong parameters in desiccation. On the right-hand side, you can see problem solved after doing spot application with drones. So it's I cannot insist enough with all the people that we work with that the parameters that are used for the operation of the drones are very, very important, because this is really precise applications that we're talking about, and you really need to be careful about the type of applications that are being done in the field.
Sorry, colleagues, sorry. Again, I'm the bad cop, but if you could wrap up, we need to close the session.
For sure. And basically, what we're getting to is that the use of drones can be challenging. What we believe is there is an important business model here for a drone as a service. And if you're a farmer or if you're a service provider that want to get into this, please contact us. This is what we're working on. We're trying to help those farmers reach service providers, and we're trying to help people that want to become service providers.
Thank you, colleague. And again, sorry for being the bad cop in these terms. But I will invite you all the speakers, to turn on your cameras just to say goodbye, to thanks all the attendees today. We were meant to have 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A, but unfortunately, well, the presentation weren't so interesting and a bit overrun. So we will let that for individual meetings with the attendees. And we want to give the people attending to have some times of networking, and for you as well, for the people to visit the booth, the stands, and have a bit deeper insight of the companies. So again, thank you very much, all of you. We are already in contact about the opportunities in Latin America, and we want you to keep exploring the different markets. So thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the different booths and stands. And thank you, the British Chamber of Commerce, for organizing this event. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you, goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye to everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.